Voting experience, voting solutions for all people. Staff report.
Yes, sir. There are some big changes coming our way this next election season, and it's called Voting Solutions for All People, as you just mentioned, VSAP. We've asked someone from the county to come to share these changes with us today. So I'd like to introduce Mr. Aaron Navarez from the LA County Registrar Recorder's Office, who will tell us about these changes. Mr. Navarez?
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council. I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. Again, Aaron Navarez from the Registrar Recorder's Office. And again, have a very close working relationship with your city clerk and her office to make sure that we are preparing the LA County residents, specifically residents in the city of Paramount and your council, to let you know about some of the big changes that are coming in March of 2020. So Los Angeles County has been on this process for about a decade now. The initiative is called the Voting Solutions for All People. And it really is more than just a voting system. It really is a brand new, modernized voting experience that, again, we will be rolling out in March of 2020, which is for the presidential primary. So I'll spend a few moments to walk you through what the new voting experience is. And again, what are some of the ways that Los Angeles County is going to prepare our electorate to make sure that they're aware of these changes, know what the changes are, and again, are prepared for the election come March in 2020. So I'll spend very briefly walking through these and then again a little bit more detail. I understand you're very busy tonight, so I'll try to be as brief as possible and again explaining the new experience. So at the top, we have a brand new modern tally system. That is the element that tallies the ballots. We have an interactive sample ballot. That is a way to engage with a sample ballot on your personal device, mobile device, phone, tablet, things like that, in a way that is very modern and convenient and intuitive. The ballot marking device, which is the kind of keystone element, the most high-profile element of the new experience, is that device you see in the center. But really, we think the two most significant elements are early voting and vote centers, which I'll touch on in a moment. As well, we have electronic poll books that replace the paper rosters that voters are familiar with, and a brand new vote-by-mail experience. So I'll start with the new vote-by-mail experience. This was actually the first element that the county rolled out in November of 2018. It is a brand new redesigned vote-by-mail experience that allows for voters to actually mark on a full-face ballot right next to the candidate or measure of their choice. We did significant surveys after the fact and found that many voters, most voters actually, found the experience more intuitive, more usable. No longer do you have to navigate between your ballot and a vote-by-mail instructions. And again, if you don't speak English as a first language, it often presented additional challenges. So in this way, it's a more usable, intuitive experience. Additionally, postage is no longer required by the voter, so postage is now paid. We are also offering expanded drop-off locations for voters to be able to drop off their ballot. And again, vote-by-mail drop-off will be available at all vote centers come March of 2020. So again, I mentioned vote centers and the voting period. Currently, voters have 1 day and one location to cast their ballot. It's the location that is a polling place near your home. For many voters, that's great. For many voters who work or have children or have other responsibilities, it can be a challenge to get to that polling place on election day. So under this new model, the voting period is expanded to 11 days, so 10 days prior to election day, and a voter no longer has to go to their polling place because, again, all vote centers now are available to them. So if you live in the city of Paramount but work downtown, you can go to a downtown vote center and pull up your Paramount ballot, or vice versa. If you live in Long Beach and work in Paramount, you can pull up your Long Beach ballot in the city of Paramount. And again, added flexibility from both location and time to allow voters ample opportunity at a time of their convenience to be able to cast their ballot. The electronic poll book, as I mentioned, is what replaces the paper roster. This is the piece of technology that actually allows for things like the vote center and early voting. This allows in real time to be able to pull up the ballot style and present that ballot style to the voter. Allows for registration in real time, allows voters to update their registration, allows us to do things like cancel vote-by-mail ballots for voters that don't bring them, really making the process more convenient and delightful. Finally, the interactive sample ballot. Again, I mentioned this is a way, is an option. You do not have to do it. We will still send out the paper sample ballot, But this is a way for voters to be able to engage with the sample ballot on the device, again, your home computer, a tablet, a mobile device, be able to mark your sample ballot on that device, create a QR code, which then can be taken into the vote center. Again, this is not voting on your phone. It really is just that, marking your sample ballot like you would a paper sample ballot. You can transfer those selections immediately onto the ballot marking device, which I mentioned, to have an expedited voting experience. The ballot marking device, again, is the kind of highlight of the new VSAP model. This is a device that has been designed over the course of the last decade to make the experience very convenient, very usable for voters who have disabilities. This is now the device that will be used by all voters. So no longer will a voter with disabilities have to go to one device in the corner, or a voter who doesn't speak English as a first language have to navigate between listening to an experience that isn't as accessible as we would have liked, to have a unified voting experience, an independent voting experience. And again, many security features are a part of this. So it still produces a human readable paper ballot. We know that's important for our voters. Security is top of mind for the registrar's office and for the county. And so we've put a lot of plans into place. We're currently going through certification testing, various levels of volume testing and penetration testing to ensure that this system is as secure as possible. And again, this device is not connected to the internet, and again, still produces a human readable paper ballot. And finally, the tally system. This is on the back end, but we feel it's important to note that this is the system that tabulates all the ballots. So ballots aren't counted at the individual vote centers. All of those paper ballots will be collected at the end of each night and transported back to our headquarters, where they'll be tabulated centrally on a separate and a completely secure network. This is just a very brief look at the vote center process. So in many ways, it will seem familiar. You will still show up to a vote center. You'll check in like you currently do, except you won't use the paper roster. You will use an electronic poll book. You will be handed your ballot, again, which will have a QR encoded, and all that QR code essentially has nothing about you as a voter, but all it has is the ballot style. So again, if you live in Paramount and vote in Long Beach, we're able to pull up the appropriate ballot style for you to cast your ballot. You will then go to the ballot marking device. At that point, you will either go through the experience from beginning to end, or if you have your interactive sample ballot, you'll scan your poll pass. It will immediately populate your choices. You don't have to stick to those choices. Again, if you've learned something between when you marked your sample ballot and when you go to the vote center, you'll actually be able to change that. Again, it's not voting on your phone, it's simply expediting your voting experience. You'll cast the ballot onto the same machine, and then you'll get your I voted sticker like you usually would. Again, this is kind of hard to see, so I'll go through some of these in detail. Los Angeles County has taken a voter-centered approach to the design of this voting system, and we understand that polling places are near and dear to voters. So we went out on the road to make sure that we were bringing awareness to this new model. So over the last several months, we conducted close to 70 community meetings where thousands of voters came in and gave us information and gave us input on where they would like to vote. And so throughout that process, we got locations in the city of Paramount that were given to us by voters, locations that they're familiar with, that they feel would be convenient for vote centers. And we're currently going through this process, working with your clerk's office to make sure that we're surveying these sites, to make sure that these sites have appropriate network connectivity, appropriate power, that they're accessible for our voters. And again, we're working through that process now. It's important to note that, again, while we won't need as many polling locations, the locations that we will need to be much more significant in terms of the length. Again, because we're no longer talking about one day, but we're talking about a voting period of 11 days. And so we'll be working with your city clerk's office to make sure that we're finding appropriate locations in the city of Paramount. Test labs, this is an internal function, but we feel it's important to note Los Angeles County is taking the time and effort to make sure that we're running through these processes, going through all of the new procedures that we need to do, going through test labs where we're actually bringing in voters to experience the new equipment, making sure we're finding all the bugs, finding all the gaps, finding all the processes that we need to improve, and we want to make sure we do this prior to March. So this has been happening beginning in May. We're actually going to be completing our final test lab early this month, and again, to make sure we find everything, correct it, and improve our processes prior to the full launch. The mock election, this is a significant event that will happen at the end of this month, September 28th and 29th. It really is the first public awareness campaign for the new voting system. While we've been in development for the last 10 years, in some ways we've had to keep it under wraps because we're still running elections on the current model. And so this will really be the first public awareness campaign. We'll open 50 mock sites across the county, and we really want it to be a fun event where voters can come, experience the new equipment, experience what a vote center is. You don't have to be an eligible voter. We're trying to work with high schools and colleges to get young voters, future voters to come experience this. Again, we want to familiarize our electorate with this new model, and we feel that the mock election is a kind of a fun way to do that. Again, we'll be expending resources. I heard today one of our ads on the radio. So again, our ads are out there now to try to, again, raise awareness and get as many voters from Los Angeles County to visit one of these sites in September. Demo centers. So following on the heels of the mock election, we'll be opening demo centers, demonstration centers throughout the county. There'll be 10 open at any time, and they'll be rotating over the next several months to make sure that we have locations where voters can come. Again, if they didn't have the opportunity to experience the mock election, can come to a demo center, experience the new equipment, walk through the process with our staff, and again, gain familiarity with the process because, again, we don't want March of 2020 to be the first time that our voters have heard about this new process. The pilot election is actually a live election in November. There are about 12 cities and one school district that are kind of in the final throes of running their own elections. They will be consolidating with the county to administer their elections. What we're doing is we've requested through the Secretary of State, there's state law that allows a county to administer a pilot election, and we will be doing that in November. And essentially, we'll be running a current election using the polling place model and our current equipment, but we will also roll out the new equipment in conjunction and allow voters to test it in an actual election. And the final piece, again, that we want to continue to collaborate with cities. We're doing a lot of presentations like this to cities around the county. We're doing a lot of town halls and community events, and we will continue to do so. Our hope is that we can engage with the public and the community as broadly and widely as possible. Some of the material that we have is actually available in the back. We have it in English and Spanish in the back, but we have it available in all 13 languages to make sure that we're providing this material to all the voters. We are going to be doing lots of events and lots of outreach to make sure that our voters are aware. Again, we do appreciate the opportunity. I was going to finish with a short video, but unfortunately, it wasn't working with the system, but your IT team has it. And they've let me know that they will be putting it up on the website and through your social media channels to make sure that your voters are aware of it as well. So I know it was a lot of information. Again, I do appreciate your guys' time. Again, we work very closely with your city clerk. She has always worked collaboratively with us, and we will continue to do so. If there are any events or other opportunities that you would like us to engage with the city of Paramount, we are more than happy to do that. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions from the council.
Thank you. Questions?
I just have one question.
Yes.
Sometimes we all know electronically technology fails on us. So what's the backup plan?
Yeah.
So in a vote center, if the power goes down, we have things called uninterrupted power sources that ensure that voting never stops. On the electronic poll books, if the power goes down, there's a backup that we can reference to ensure. Again, one of the benefits of this new model is that if it was a one-day event, having a power outage or other issues like that would be detrimental. We're now talking about an 11-day period with potentially between 250 and 1,000 vote centers. So there are contingency plans that we're putting in place to ensure that voting never stops, but it's an important element that we're watching very closely.
Question?
Yes. So at each voting location, how many machines will be present?
It depends on the size of the location. Typically, we will have between 10, which would be a small, and 50, which would be a large. So again, it depends on the size of the facility, but we will have a significant number of units available at all of these locations to make sure that we're able to process the number of voters that we need to.
Okay, and then recently I went to an event where the Wi-Fi couldn't handle the number of people that were at this location. So a video and a machine just kept buffering. So they had to ask everybody in the general vicinity to turn off their cell phones. So has that been tested, the Wi-Fi systems in each county? In each area of the county?
Exactly, Councilwoman. We're going through this process now of verifying these locations. So we have a pool of about 2,000 that we're going through across the county, and we're doing significant surveys. So we do not only accessibility surveys to make sure that the sites are accessible, but we do network connectivity testing and power testing to ensure that there's ample network connectivity. And we're not just relying on one network. Typically what we'll do is if there is a secure network within the facility, we will use that as one potential option, but we will also use cellular networks. We will do a secondary and a tertiary network so that if one network goes down, we can immediately fall over to another network to ensure that issues like that don't occur.
So how many centers are you projecting in Paramount?
There could be potentially 2 to 3. Again, it depends on the analysis. I know I've been speaking with your clerk, and I think there are 2 parks. One is at Paramount Park, and I think another...
Looking at Paramount Park and Progress Park.
Progress Park. And again, those are city facilities, where there are other facilities that could be potentially school district facilities or other potential religious institutions or other private facilities. Those are the 2 city facilities that we're looking at. But again, we'll make sure that we coordinate that with your city clerk and make sure that we find the most appropriate vote center locations for Paramount residents.
Thank you.
Okay, questions?
Is this going to cut down on voter fraud and stuff like that?
Yeah, so one of the elements that we'll be able to do under the new model is in real time ensure that voters, if you were to come in and you had already cast a ballot, we'll know that you had already cast a ballot. We'll be able to do things to check like various checks like that. In reality, voter fraud is something we hear about a lot. Anytime we have any suspicion that there may be fraud regarding any element of our electoral process, we work closely with law enforcement agencies like our district attorney and the Secretary of State's. They have an investigative unit as well. Our department is an investigative unit, but we work closely with those who are, and we follow up on any and all suspected issues of voter fraud. And under this new system, there are actually more protections in place to ensure elements of voter fraud don't occur.
Thank you.
Question? Cool.
I have one more I forgot to ask. The day of the election, let's say I go down in one of the 10 days and I'm not a registered voter, can I vote at that time and register to vote and then vote?
Yes, so one of the elements of this new system through the electronic poll book, as long as you're an eligible voter, you would be able to register same day. We would check it through the statewide database, and as long as it came back clear, you would be given a ballot. If for some reason we weren't able to clear you for issues, again, do we need to make sure that the voter is eligible and we're clearing it, that you would potentially have to vote provisional. But again, if that was cleared, it would be still counted. But hopefully the process would be that it would clear in real time and we would be able to give you a ballot day of.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
it.
Thank you.
The election is just around the corner, and Los Angeles County has a new way for voters to make their voices heard. New Los Angeles County vote centers are located throughout the county. Cast your ballot near your home, work, or favorite park. Voters can go anywhere. To find a vote center that's convenient, visit lavote.net and find one that works best for you. Instead of waiting for one day to vote, you are now able to vote across 11 days. Once you've arrived, a vote center assistant will greet you and check you in before taking you to the ballot marking device. Did you know that there is a new interactive sample ballot that lets you pre-mark your selections online and generate a poll pass? A unique QR code that will let you quickly transfer, review, and cast your selections on a paper ballot at the County Vote Center. The new ballot marking device includes an audio ballot, a touch screen, and a tactile keypad to make voting faster and more accessible. You can also select your language, change the font size, and adjust the contrast for easy viewing. Then, after you make your selections or scan your poll pass, you can review your ballot to verify your choices and cast your ballot by feeding the paper ballot back into the ballot marking device. There's no need to give your ballot to a vote center assistant. You cast it on the same device. Welcome to the future of voting in Los Angeles County. Fast, convenient, and easy. Go to vsap.lavote.net to exercise your right to vote and let your voice be heard.